Going to call the meeting of Tuesday, July 12th, 2016 to order. I'm Janice Larago, and I'm covering for Matthew Patterson, who will be here later, but is in another meeting at the moment. So the first order of business is to review and approve the minutes of the June 2nd and the June 20th meetings.
Yes, I want to make an addition to the extension of that meeting that we did meet at the intersection. The board did and talked to Art Whitman, and we ended up making a few decisions to move forward. So I wasn't sure if we needed to expand upon that at all. We were all there.
Well, I wasn't there, but, you know.
And I think, wasn't it 3 though, was it 5, right?
Was it? No, it wasn't. It wasn't later. Because then I can't remember what time it was, but we didn't really make decisions because we made a decision based on project cost of another, so we didn't actually decide at that point.
Gotcha.
We made a decision to decide once we got numbers in, but nothing was actually firmly decided on.
Gotcha. So
I think that's
like it is.
I think that's accurate.
Okay, gotcha.
Norm, right? I mean, we kind of made it. We made a decision that we would take a certain course pending the price of another project, which we now have.
The outcome.
Right. Exactly. Once that right. So I think it actually is accurate.
Okay, so Bill, it's 2 meetings that are reported on here, right? And the section on 3 o'clock refers to the intersection,
right,
and Art's being there.
Yeah, and I think that's fine. We can leave that like that.
Okay. So is there any other change that your folks are feeling need to be made?
No, I think the confusion is we did kind of make a decision, but that decision isn't permanent. It would be made at a further meeting once we get more information. So that decision will be reflected in minutes at a later meeting, and doesn't need to be made here.
You don't think anything needs to go in here?
No, I think.
Does
that make sense, though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so
I will make a motion to approve first the June 7th.
Okay, do you have a second for that?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And that's unanimous. And then the, I don't know if we should break this apart, since different people were at different parts of the meeting,
I guess we probably should. So I will make a motion, seeing I was at the 3 o'clock meeting, I will make a motion to approve the minutes for the 3 o'clock meeting from June 20th.
I'll second that.
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I wasn't there, so that's unanimous of the people there. And then the 6 o'clock meeting? That was the budget, the further budget discussion.
Yep, I'll make a motion that we approve that, the 6 o'clock meeting on the budget.
Okay, and
I think I was there.
you listed it here, John. You were there earlier meeting too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay, and all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And I will abstain because I was not there.
Yeah, okay.
That was the trickiest meeting we had.
No, wow, I earned my money tonight. Okay, so, we do, have a number of citizens here, and I think I'll, check in with you folks, and then we'll do them.
Warrant first.
Well, is there more information, Mary, beyond the warrant that was sent out?
No, I do not. We're right at the year end, so I'm in the process of getting all of the account reconciliations done. So really, I have no other reports to bring tonight.
Okay, and we already approved the payroll, is that correct?
The payroll was previously done. There really should be 1 week to approve before we get to the August meeting, but we'll just add that into the August one. You've already approved through this month. Usually we do all the payrolls up until the next meeting. But that one just had the first week of August was not included.
Okay.
But I didn't get a chance to get that done for tonight, so really the only thing for tonight is this one
Okay.
warrant.
Okay, well then I'm gonna change mind and do that first. So we have the warrant, of, expenses that have, invoices that have been paid. Are there any questions?
I would just bring to note that most of these are actually fiscal 2016, but a few of the voted appropriations are actually out of the fiscal 17 funds.
The big three.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the warrant.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And there are none opposed. Okay, so,
I can put this copy.
okay, thanks, Mark. So we'll move on to citizens' comments. Is there anyone who'd like to go first? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, Ed Corey.
Yes.
I came, I was just wondering what was going on the intersection down here. Tonight.
The Bank Street intersection?
Yeah, in Main Street.
Do you want to take it?
Sure. I'm sorry.
You go ahead.
Okay. So we did meet with our women and several of the trustees, and we do have a plan moving forward that is kind of shelved for right now. So we do have a fix that we have in mind, a plan in place, that we have to wait until we deal with the Water Street project, which we'll be talking about tonight. And we've got to figure out what the actual figure for that is. We don't want to jump into a project that could cost money that we won't have after this bigger project. So it's kind of taking a back door right now to the bigger project, which is the Water Street project. But the fix is basically to take some of the far end curbing back to the sidewalk. So we'll make that and gradually catch it up to where the roughly about 10 yards this side where the crosswalk is. And it'll gradually catch up to where the existing, so the opening there will not change dimensions. It's gonna be, that's the width of the opening. So we're gonna gently bring that curb in so they make the far end around the back corner of the bank an easier negotiation for the bigger trucks. And then we're gonna address the lift that was put up where the mountable curb is, they put in, I assume, and we've been told, to help drainage, to help guide the water to that drop inlet. But we're gonna get rid of that feeling that it's kind of it's a deterrent for the truckers when they see that big rise. It's about a 3-inch rise.
Well,
And-
flat for tires.
Yeah, no, and we agreed, in the conversation, we agreed that it was probably not the best design. And we're gonna get rid of that so they will visually now feel more confident mounting that curb. And we feel that the water, even though it might not all get caught in that catch basin, which was the reason for building that up the way we did, it should be dealt with just fine with the next one right there, and then the further one down. So we think we can do that without really compromising any of the original design plan.
Okay, the only reason I did come in tonight is I do know that, they are gonna do some sawing there on Water Street. And to me, my recommendation is still the sharpness of the curb everywhere is what bothers. If there was a way to get somebody in there, maybe while they're working on that Water Street project, to saw that curb and right down flat, right with the blacktop.
Gotcha.
Take away all the sharpness and then bank it.
Well, that is part of it is we're pricing out some angle cutting of that curb. There's still, we have not got a definitive plan yet. We've got a potential plan moving forward, and part of it is to ease some of those sharp edges on some of the mountable curb. Now, the primary curb, which is so the mountable curb and then the primary curb, that's meant as a deterrent. Those edges, if you go anywhere else in the village and you go anywhere else around that has granite curbing, those sharp edges are there for a reason. We don't want you driving over those curbs because they protect the sidewalk. So in terms of the primary curb, which is the 8-inch curb,
You got the bump out that I see as the worst is if you're driving a truck and you come in Bank Street and you want to make a right-hand turn to go down 67A towards Bennington.
Yep,
It doesn't look like a problem for a car, but if you're driving a tractor trailer truck, even if you touch your front tire on that little bump out on the other side, you still can't make the swing.
I think that's one we've already addressed though, isn't it, Norm? That little bump out by the gas station, that prime, didn't we already address part of that issue? The main issue there was that sharp
We
curve?
rounded off and
But I'm talking on the
Yeah.
whole street side.
Pardon me?
I'm talking on the whole
Holton
street side, not on the gas station side.
Oh, so
By the-
that bump out where they created the two parking
by where
spots.
no,
No,
the
the
one
other
by the
side.
little, by the moose.
Yeah.
It's just a little
Other end.
bump out and then it's just a little bump out.
Okay,
It's on the Eddington side of that intersection.
Is that the one you're referring
Yeah,
to?
and as I say, if you're driving trucks and you're trying to make any kind of a swing, as I say, even if you touch your front tire right against that curb that's there, you still can't make the swing without running over the sharpness of the curbing on the other side towards Collins Way.
So Bill, you met with a
We
group
can meet up
of,
there and I can explain to you.
I got a mental picture, I know what you're saying, I know what he's talking about now. So you're talking about
the,
larger trucks that have to actually cross the opposite lane in order to make that turn, still have
They can't-
a,
They could never make a swing on it if they were in their own way.
right, yeah. So there's still a potential where they would go all the way across and still
You
catch
just,
it. I know what you're talking
I
about.
saw a car carrier come through the other day, and he had his front tire, touched right on that bump out curve on the other side, and he still couldn't make the swing, and he was still running over the curb and on, Collins side of the road.
Okay, yeah, so that wasn't part of our meeting the other day, so we didn't look at that, but that's certainly something we can look at.
Yeah, as I say, that would definitely, to me, improve, at least swing headed toward Bennington.
And we can certainly, like Norm said, he'll take me down there, we'll take a peek at it, and we'll certainly can't hurt to look at everything that are concerns to anybody.
and Bill, you had met with a group of truckers before. Did they identify that as a concern?
No, they were really concerned mainly with, and when we met with Art again, he was kind of representing their interest as well, they didn't all come. And they were really concerned with that radius heading south on Water Street, making the right onto Bank Street.
Yeah,
That's the big one that they're, so,
Yeah,
and that's
yeah.
the big one that we're trying to address right there, along with that little raise by the catch basin. Both of those making that right swing turn.
Yeah, no, because they're absolutely correct, that corner by the bank is impossible, unless you swing it on the church side,
Yeah.
to make it without your trailer running over the
Yeah.
high curb.
And we think the plan that we have will buy them about 2 feet, which is significant when you're talking about the turn a truck, and Art seemed to think that it's although probably not perfect, much better. So he seemed to be in favor of what we were.
Right. Just so you know, the plan, we're gonna go over the Water Street budget tonight and make a decision. So everything on that, we have a plan, but that's been waiting until we make a decision on Water Street so we can rectify the more significant problem. Then we move on immediately to going, okay, here's what we're gonna try to identify a budget, and I think Matthew actually put that in an email that we're gonna talk about that tonight. So we're tonight moving on to the next phases of that later on in the meeting.
Okay. So it seems like the only piece that we haven't looked at is the bump out that Ed's referring
And then I'd
to.
also mention, where Holton Street does come, and you got that other bump out to stop people from parking near the intersection. That just makes swings impossible. Coming out if you're gonna turn to come up here by the depot off North Street is real difficult also.
Are there trucks using that street at this point?
They can't-
Coming out? Because I think it's much too, they determined that it really was better to go around.
Yeah, and the only reason I mention that is church down in the church, let's
Oh.
it makes an awful traffic problem there, even without truck traffic. And to me, it would be much cleaner if they just kept it the way it was and kept it a straight
Yeah.
line.
I'm not sure that's up for consideration of changing though.
Not
at
at this point, it's
no.
not.
Okay,
But-
yeah, no,
that's-
just one thing.
But, yeah, I think,
Oh,
I think
no.
we wanted to address the safety issues with truck tires and, yeah.
But again, we always appreciate hearing,
Yeah.
you can never get too much information on these things, and hearing from people like you is
Thank you.
Yeah.
certainly helpful. Thank
Okay,
you.
thanks, Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Me,
The two, yeah.
I'm Doris Pratt. I live on West Street.
Okay, and
My
did you want to, are you here for comments?
Yes, I was.
Okay, why don't you go ahead?
Well, the first thing I have to comment about is the nice fountain down by the library. Mothers seem to think that's a good place for their little kids to splash in. And I think that is a hazard to let them get in the fountain. There should be a sign up that they should not be allowed to play in the fountain itself. I talked to a mother this last Sunday. She was really ripped up about me talking to her son and explaining to her son that the fountain was to look at and enjoy, not to fool around in. You should have taught me yours. I'm from New York, she says. And I says, well, I'm from the village of North Bennington. But this is the third time I've seen children playing in fountains. The first mother had 3 small children, 2 probably about early school age, and the other she had to lift up into the fountain. And they were splashing around in the water in the fountain. And all they need to do is slip or fall in the fountain around the ground, they're gonna get hurt. So I think there should be a sign put up.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. We have had a conversation with the fountain committee today, because on Friday, I was driving up with my personal truck, and I saw maybe the same person with 3 kids playing in the fountain.
Yeah.
And I
they're
stopped
really
and I said, hey, and they know who I am, they're a village resident, and I said, you know, we just put a bunch of shock in there. That fountain is not it's clean, it's not kept to the standard of a pool where people are in. And I said, you know, I just put a gallon of shock in there, they need to get out of there. You know, that's not for swimming. And the committee is just going through the magazines, or excuse me, the receipts of where we bought that brass plate for the side of the village, and getting no swimming plates, and we're gonna mount them on that. And it's gonna be more than one.
It was
You know,
that first mother with 3 kids I saw twice, 2 weeks in a row,
No,
letting her children play in it.
same. Okay, we have multiple speeding signs, we have multiple seatbelt signs, we have multiple noise signs, and we have multiple no trash signs. And people all disregard those. So, but at the very least, we are going to put them there. That concern is certainly not just your own.
Okay.
Well, thank you for being concerned and acting on it, even if it was a difficult experience. I
I
appreciate
live
that.
on West Street and have for over 60 years, and there's very fast and heavy traffic on West Street due to the village school in North Bennington when it's in session, the new Head Start, which is a huge building now, plus the charter school, which is within the quarter of a block from all those other schools. And cars race up the street, they race back down the street. Some of them are dropping kids off to school, and I think some are going to work. And it's the same thing every day. In the morning, fast traffic going up. Later on, it's fast traffic going down. I don't even dare go out the road and get my banner on my banner box. I stand on the sidewalk and do this because I don't want to get hit by a car that races up and down all the time. And they don't even stop for the stop sign on Main and Water Street. They slow down on that crosswalk and then look and keep going. So they don't stop at all for the stop sign.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think you're reading our mind tonight, because if I'm not mistaken, the email that Matthew sent us before the meeting, he's gonna be here, mentioned something about heavier police presence on certain streets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that he's actually gonna bring up when he comes, or I hadn't had any information prior to that. But I think, I'm not sure if you had spoken to Matthew, but he had mentioned that in an email prior to this meeting, and when he comes, I think we're gonna be talking about just that. So far, the two concerns you brought are actually in the process of us dealing with, so that's,
Well, I have a third.
okay, let's see if we can go 3 for 3.
Just a
I
minute,
can
Doris.
just speak to that issue too, though, is that we've been informed by our roads crew a couple of different times that they don't like to do work and careful grading of that road just to have people ruining it by driving on it at excessive speeds. And so we are aware that that's an issue on that road. And so if we are.
No, she's talking about West Street.
West
The paved section.
West Street's paved.
Well, this morning, when I was getting my banner, the backhoe from the village was up on the corner of School Street and West Street. And there were two guys, I don't know which one of them they were.
Okay, so your
But a
concern is
truck
on
went up the
lower.
street,
Yeah.
he never
Yeah.
slowed
Yeah.
down,
Okay.
and they got their shirts on that show that they're workers, and he just veered around them. He didn't slow down one single bit when he passed those two guys in their backhoe. And this is going up the street, and he was racing, and they raced down the street. So that's why I don't dare go out the road to get my banner. I do this in order to get my banner because the cars go so fast. And then we have a brick house across the street that's all students, and they like to park on the street, so they do U-turns instead of going into a driveway and turning around. And that's happened a lot, because there are a lot of students over there. They share apartments, so there's up to as many as 8 cars over at that brick house at times.
But they all do a U-turn. They park on one side of the street and they just do a U, and I've seen a lot of near accidents. People are speeding up and down the street.
And my last concern is I don't think, there's a noise ordinance that was passed a few years ago, I remember.
Okay.
And I have the misfortune of having a neighbor that has chickens and a rooster. And this is the second time. And I hear that rooster crow all day long, even at the farthest end of my property, which is down by the red house on Water Street. I can hear him way down there. And 5 o'clock, twice this week in the morning, when the sun was coming up, he was crowing. So I think the ordinance should make sure that people with chickens and roosters should be on the outer edge of the village, not in the populated area of the village.
Yeah, there is we had another resident
Different
down the
area
end
of
of,
town,
right, down the
yeah.
end of town too. And you treat that actually the same way you would treat barking dog or any other noise ordinance, is because we are now in line with the Bennington, you call Bennington PD, and they know the ordinance, they would come up and check on it, and you actually make a report on it. And that's how, because we don't enforce the ordinances, the police actually do that. So if you were to call the police and say, and make the report, they would come and check on it. And I think the way the ordinance reads, it's gotta be a sustained noise for a certain amount of time, and they know all that. The police who come will know exactly the way it reads. And so you would do it just like if there was a barking dog or a loud neighbor with music, you can report right to Bennington PD and they would come and address it.
My daughter lives just below the post office in the blue house,
Yep.
and she can hear the rooster way down on Beck Street. So it's not just down on my street.
Yeah, and those, but
Places.
yep,
And I think chickens and roosters should be out on the edge of the village, not in the middle of the village, where there's a lot of housing close together. And you can hear the sounds of the rooster. He never stops, that's the thing.
Well, I think that's the thing that may make a difference. Because we're in a agricultural state, I think when we talked about it before, I don't know if there are options in terms of limiting where chickens are, but if they're a nuisance.
right. But they should be held to the same standard as any other domestic
It's
animal.
not the chickens that.
Oh, the rooster, yes, I understand that,
Yeah. So, but they are held to any standard of any
Yeah.
pet that you have if they are, impacting you as a neighbor, then you have every right to call and make a report
Well,
and
I'm
follow
third-
through on the,
Third house up on the street on the left side, and then there's houses on the other side. Plus the guy that's 2 houses above me heard that roosters early in the morning, and he works up at
Yeah.
Harvard, so he has to get to work early, but he says the other day, I was talking to him in May for the first time, I let him borrow my weed whacker, because he was trying to mow the lawn, and the lawn was up like this. And he told me that he was working on the forest and that he heard a rooster real early in the morning, before he got up to go to work.
yeah, but those are certainly reports you can make, and the police will come and they'll respond to it.
Well, I think that's all I have to say tonight, which is probably enough.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Well, I was on the trustees way back in the 60s, for 5 years, so I'm not new to this.
You could take some pointers from you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
I'll say good night, and
Okay.
thank you for listening to me.
Yes, no, thank you for your concern. We appreciate it.
Muriel, you here for comments or just,
Well, I think I want you to know that we had roosters up Sage Street, and I'm glad they moved. They're no longer there, but I do hear the rooster even on Sage Street.
Yeah,
Get an ear for it.
well, I can hear them in my house, and I can hear it way down at the end of my property, which is
I don't
a
know
quarter
what
of an acre.
Well, I think there's some on Mechanic Street too.
There was
Yes.
one,
yeah.
a few years
I
ago.
get symphony.
Okay,
But not fun.
Okay.
It's not like you got lots of room and not very close neighbors, so roosters and chickens are nothing out in the country, but when you get in a populated
Yeah.
village where the houses are close together, and the roosters and the chickens are right nearby, like mine is just over my property line, in my
Yeah.
backyard.
Well, thank you, Doris. Muriel, will you hear the comment or,
No, I really am just interested in the.
okay, I know you do like the
Because
comment, yeah.
I like history, I've come across some photographs of the site. I'd like to see, be part of the progression.
Sure.
And I wanted, now that I have a moment, Sage Street is different than it was when BAE was there. There was very little traffic now. So it's become a children's playground. And that is easy. If you have 8 kids in the road, traffic slows down. You don't need a sign.
Well, you hope it slows down.
And the other is there's so much construction going on there that the one-way street is sort of null and void because the trucks won't go over the bridge. It's understandable. They're heavy trucks, big boys, which is fine. It's, negotiable. So that's just interesting. I'm only here to listen.
Yeah, well, we're glad to have you, yeah.
You are going to talk about sidewalks in front of Kevin's.
Yes.
Okay, so Mary, is there anything more from
No,
Treasurer
nothing,
today?
nothing at this point, but we'll have plenty in the next meeting, I hope.
Then, we had talked earlier, did you want to?
Sure.
Yeah, I think, Norm, if it's okay with you, John was going to do the public hearing piece.
Actually, can we do Jason, because he's here?
Oh, that's right, okay.
You know what I mean, we try to, I know he's got another place to go, so
Okay,
I'd like to get
Okay,
him out of here,
well.
and then we can just get back.
So
If you don't
okay,
mind.
yeah, okay. So Jason Dolmich is here regarding the Water Street bids.
I've got an electronic version of all this too that I'll forward on to the trustees so that everybody's got it.
Thank you.
Just compiled a quick packet for you all here, and we'll just go down the line. So this is, purpose of tonight is to give you guys a status update of the Water Street slope repair project. As you probably all already know, we put the project out to bid. We had 4 bidders on the project, so it was a nice, good competitive bidding process. We had, basically they ranged in price, in total price from $117 $1,800 and change to $265,907 with a cut with 2 in between. So it was an interesting spread. The lowest responsible bidder that was Weaver Excavating at $117,830. Just to give you, if you look at the first packet item here, this is just the bid tabulation, so you guys can go through and see what the total pricing were. I've attached on the back end all of everybody's bids and bid bonds, so you can review all that as well. The way that I've unitized this project, we decided to go basically with a lump sum bid for the major portion of the repair, and then to unit price cold planing and bituminous concrete pavement with an estimate of where we wanted to go with the limits on that, but that we could either shrink or enlarge that based on the actual disturbance that we see on the project. I could say typically with concrete pavement on a site, typically with pavement on a site like this, I could say, please don't mess up the pavement, and then we would all be looking at it at the end of the project wondering whether we wanted to live with it. So I figured we'd just sort of shortcut that. We'd say, all right, here are the project limits. This is sort of the area that we expect is going to get beat up during the course of construction, and we'll do a quick, and does everybody know what cold planing is? Basically, it's a milling machine comes in, takes off the first 1.5 inches, and then we'll come back and repave it. So you'll repave it, restripe it, and so you'll have basically a complete system at the end of the project. So and then what I've done, if you skip to page 3, I've given you guys a bid tabulation and have essentially recommended that you take the lowest responsible bidder, Weaver Construction, Weaver Excavating. I've worked with on several excavation projects. They're actually working on a slope repair right now in Reedsboro. They've also done slope repairs in Shrewsbury for V-Trans. So they have experience with this work. They're a reputable contractor in town. So I have no personal or professional issues with recommending you hiring them. So that they meet the responsible factor. They also meet the fact that they were responsive and they were the lowest.
And they were almost right on your...
And they were right on my budget, yeah.
Right on your estimate.
I lucked out. It's like whenever I get to open bids, I'm like, oh, how far am I going to go? Then if you go back to page 2, what I've done is give you basically a breakdown of what I'm proposing for the total contract budget for this process. As you know, you've also received the grant award for up to $192,500. That includes the $175,000 from the state and $17,500 local match for the total construction contract project. So what I'm recommending tonight is that you approve a total project cost of $156,000, give or take $155,7735. That takes care of the construction administration, the construction inspection, the construction cost, and then what I'm recommending as a 15% contingency for whatever we may see. So that would give you, that gets us comfortably inside the grant, and I believe it's a comfortable project cost for this overall phase. But that gives you sort of the total budget breakdown for that. So I'll stop there and ask if you have any questions on that piece.
I don't. Well done.
Quick question.
Sure.
Why would there be a bid coming in at $265,000? Is that something that you've seen before? Obviously, they're not going to know what other people are bidding, but would that have anything to do with the way that an out-of-state company would approach a project versus an in-state company, or?
So there are lots of reasons why somebody would either bid high or low on a project. And I, personally, I don't ask the question. you know, in a contract in a bid contract environment, people put their proposals together. There might be multiple reasons, like they have enough work, and so if they get the project, they're happy to do it for that price. It could also be that they look at the project differently, and they may feel that that's what it would cost them to do it. So I think it's hard for me to gauge. To zoom out a little bit further away from your question, instead of focusing on the high end, focusing on the spread and saying, do I feel comfortable that this spread, is representative of, that most people got the information and understood what the project is? I would say yes. Right. I mean, I've got a low end and I've got a high end. I've seen projects where, this is a decent spread. I mean, we've got one person who's essentially twice what the low bid was, but we also have people like 140, basically 160,000 and 140,000 are pretty close together. 140,000 also isn't that far away from 120, which is, or 117. I guess.
So in other words, this isn't a situation where you're concerned everybody's 40,000 higher than the one low. And that would maybe be somewhat concerning.
Right, and so what we want to really think about is like in percentages. So like, if I take the next highest one, 140,000 over 120, this is when my inability to do math in my head becomes apparent. So that's 20 over 120, that's basically over 10%, just ever so slightly over 10% of the total cost of the lowest bid. And so that's actually, when we start to look at it in percentages, instead of the thousands, then it doesn't seem that far apart. Like my goal, my fantasy goal when I'm putting a project out to bid is I'd like to see my opinion of probable cost somewhere between 5 and 15% of the final bid price. And that often either means that it's lower or that it's higher. This one was really, really close. It's never, I'm usually not that lucky. It's sometimes, like traditionally somebody's 15% lower than me or 15% higher than me. And we always have to that's why we call them epitomes of probable cost. It reminds people that engineers don't give estimates. We're not going to build the project. It's really based on what we've seen, what we've experienced in the past. I really couldn't tell you why they chose that price.
The only thing that it seemed in their bids that they broke down some costs, but not most of them.
Right, but that was by choice for me. So one of the other ways.
So if you wanted to, you could ask them for all kinds of detail about what they were going to put into it, including like how much they pay their workers an hour, et cetera.
We could require, instead of saying that, we could require Davis Bacon wage rates, but that's typically like a federal requirement. If you're getting federal money, you have a Davis Bacon wage rate requirement, then we put that into the contract documents and ask them to follow those. Okay. The typical thing is to quantify it based on units of quantity, cubic yard, tonnage, square yards, whatever. And Norma and I chose in this instance that this essentially was a very compact project. Believe it or not, it's actually a very small project. I think when I first started looking at it, it was very, it became apparent once I started quantifying these things that this actually, I think once all the debris gets grubbed out of there, people are going to see just how small the project actually is. And I think, and if I were to look into my crystal ball or to play engineer psychologist for a section, I'd sit there and say, maybe that played and had an effect on sort of the emotional aspect of how contractors were bidding.
I actually know why the two highest ones bid that way.
Okay.
Because I just bid a project in the same timeline as this, and those were 2 of the 3 people that backed out because they had too much work. So they took this one because it was small and bid high.
Okay.
There you go.
I mean, they actually stated that to me. We're not going to bid because we have too much work right now.
Yeah. And then a separate question is, I saw the project that Weaver had in Reedsboro, and is that the only other project? You said you've had a few experiences with them, but
they did a project out in Shrewsbury
that you were a part of, or
I just did the erosion prevention and sediment control plan where I actually worked for them.
Okay.
On that project. And similarly, I was not the construction inspector in either case.
So you had personal interaction with them?
I had personal interaction with them, and I mean, I could. The only person that I would call if you wanted me to follow up beyond my own experience. I've had them work on projects that I bid. They did the, not slope repair, but they did a pump station on Bank Street for the town of Bennington. They also recently, they did a full depth pavement replacement up at the middle school. They have, I can list numerous projects. I didn't think those were relevant given the work that we're asking them to do here, because this is a slope repair project. It's actually, I'm happy to see somebody working on it that does these, because they're fun. You know, I think that they take a special skill. You have to sort of know how to lay the project out and do it.
Great, thank you very much.
Yeah. So then I just wanted to give you a quick update on, there is that other planning grant that we had that we basically burned down and we're sort of closing out at this point, but I just wanted to give you a quick, just sort of budget review on that, just to let you guys know where it was. You were awarded $49,038. That included your 10% match. There was $4,500 spent on repairs last year with Norm. We did a first phase assessment, which was geotech. That was $7,000. We then had the final design contract amount of $32,200. We actually were able to do all the bidding under that contract too, which wasn't planned for, so I was really happy about that. We got to an answer relatively efficiently. So we're basically closed out on that. Then we did go through and do ground penetrating radar. I haven't received an invoice from them, but that'll go in under that planning grant. The results of that, we did find voids underneath the road. They seem very clearly tied to the infiltration, water infiltration by the culvert. I reviewed it with our geotechnical engineer. The reason why we decided not to put grouting in this project is by a recommendation by the geotech, who basically said, look, we're closing off the infiltration so that it's not going to continue. And we are going to, as a part of the rebuilding of the slope, we are putting in essentially a layer that will prevent sediment from migrating. So basically we're going to solve the infiltration problem and we're going to prevent it on the other side. And he said, we've got a 12-inch thick concrete double mat rebar concrete structure that's going to hold up even if there's a little bit of settlement underneath the road. It's likely not to continue migrating, and we're not going to see a problem. And if we did grout, we don't exactly know what it's going to do, and sometimes it causes more trouble than it's worth. Basically, you can you can create sort of a water stop in a place that you don't want to have happen. So. We did do the results. We know what's underneath there. We had it reviewed, decided to do nothing, which I think is just fine. So then, basically, just to give you the next steps, in all of my wonderful presentation planning tonight, I failed to print out the notice of award, but I do need the village trustees to sign that. So I'm hoping maybe Matt, I can catch up with you later on in the week and we can sign the notice of award. If you guys choose to do that, and then at that point we'll coordinate the pre-construction and contract signing meeting with the contractor.
Do we need to vote on that?
Yes, I think.
Is that something that we all have to sign, or
No,
we just need one signature?
I would think you make a motion and then you can have the chair sign.
Are we fine with making a motion now?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll move that we make a motion to award the bid to Weaver.
Okay.
I would second that.
And is that the motion we're doing, or is it for the total amount of the project?
I would
budget?
also recommend that you guys set a budget for within the grant to well, I would do a total
155, isn't it?
155,770 so that we
Those
can
be two separate
secure the
motions?
contract contingency and then the oversight.
How do you want those, Janice? Two separate or one?
I don't know. What, the total budget and the awarding?
Because we're awarding the contract, but we're also
Yeah.
approving a budget.
Okay, so does it make a difference?
Doesn't make a difference. to
Okay,
me.
let's do them separately then.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion on awarding the contract to Weaver.
And a second, and that was for a total of $117,800.30.
Correct.
Okay. Any more discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No.
Then I
We
will
don't.
also make a motion to approve a total project budget for the repair, for the actual construction repair down there and oversight of $155,770.35.
And I will second that as well.
Okay, any discussion on that? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
And that's unanimous.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well done.
Yeah.
so are we on schedule then?
Yes, so as far as schedule goes, thank you for mentioning that. I did talk with Chris Caff today. One question that I had to him was when we would see project funding, when we would actually see the allocation of their funds. And I think we're gonna see that. He says he feels pretty comfortable that we're gonna see that final, basically, allocation of money from V-Trans to you guys for the grant somewhere around the beginning of August. I haven't gotten a firm schedule from Weaver, but when I do, I'll let you guys know. And I did speak to him after the bidding to ask him about schedule. I think we're gonna be seeing sometime around the first week of August him starting. But before I commit officially, I'll let him give me an actual schedule, and then I'll convey it to you guys, and that'll be sometime around the contract.
Okay. Thanks, Jason.
Great.
Thanks,
very
guys.
Nice job.
Jason, something I can sign now, or you don't have?
Okay.
Absolutely, just give me a call.
You go down.
I'll change the email.
In the night, or yeah.
And then I can just catch up with
Okay. Turn the meeting
You know, you
back
could
on.
stay there.
That's okay.
She would
Oh,
try
can
that.
you find me though? Wait a minute. No.
Sorry, I'm late. What do we got next? Is it John's turn?
It's Norm's report,
Now
and
you can go back to the sidewalk, so we, hers, so she doesn't have to sit here any longer to see it.
Come on. Hey, I don't have TV. This is entertaining here.
Okay.
No, go ahead. I think,
No light.
good. Do your
Okay,
thing.
so I've been working on submitting a grant to V-Trans through the bicycle and pedestrian program. We have already been awarded a grant from 2014 to repair sidewalks on Upper Main Street, which is a small section near Kevin's on Kevin's side, as well as both sides. Well, one side across from the post office here, and then turning into both sides as it comes up and going to the village line. There is a map that I posted the warning for this meeting in the post office in the left bank, and the one in the post office had a map attached to it, which I have here if anyone is interested in looking at it. I'll leave it up in the post office for a little while if anybody's interested in that. But
Excuse me, John, could we have a motion to open the public hearing?
Oh, I'm sorry. I will move to open the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
All those in favor, right?
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
yeah, I think there was a, actually, was there a notice, does that have to be in a specific,
The notice for the public hearing,
yeah?
was it warned?
No, it was warned, but I'm saying, do we have to word it in a certain way, or can we just say that the public meeting is
No.
open at this time?
You know, just a motion to open the public hearing for the
Okay,
we're
Vermont
good.
Trans Bicycle
Okay.
Test, and we did it, we just.
Yep.
Okay, great. So the exact areas of the project are highlighted on this map, and I'll just pass that around, but it's just there. So the former trustee David Monks, who I took over for, he wrote a grant to get a scoping study to study this the scoping study was a little broader. It covered other areas of sidewalk in the town, but this seemed like a manageable project, so that was decided that was what we were going to apply for. We did, and we were awarded that. The grant award ended up being, I believe, $147,000. And then when we got the preliminary engineering studies back, the cost was actually going to be quite a bit more than that. And so we had a shortfall, and then we had to decide what we were going to do with that. And we decided to apply to the same grant program for the difference in funding. So where we're at now is the estimates right now are for $225,000, and we have $147,000 already. So I'm writing the grant to apply for the difference.
John, what is our, on those grants, is it a 10, 20 match?
Okay, so the original 147 is a 10% match, and then the new difference amount is it's changed now, it's gonna be 20%.
Okay.
So, and let's see here. And so there's various criteria that you have to, well, there's various things that you have to do in order to apply for the grant, the cover sheet and how it fits within the village plan, and in essence, that's already been done because we've already been awarded a grant for the exact same project. So it's clear that this is a project that's valuable, and Jim Sullivan has given us his opinion that typically when there is an overrun like that, they will award the additional amount because they've already approved it for what you thought it was going to cost. So if it comes back higher, then they understand that can happen.
And one of the things, if you don't mind me jumping in, one of the things, I'm on the committee, one of the things we tried to do because of the way it's put together, it was in sections, so we tried to go through the state and say, well, can we just eliminate certain sections of it to fall within that original grant, and the state basically told us we couldn't do that, which is why this becomes important. So I think they're on board, so like you said, it's a project they've already said is important, so we probably look very good in terms of getting the secondary grant because
And just practically speaking, I mean, you can see how the sections that have been improved are a great improvement.
Yeah, great asset.
Okay?
Yep.
And so to do that in these other sections, especially in the upper section where the marble has deteriorated to a point where it's essentially non-existent, except for some various chunks, it really would benefit us greatly to reestablish that area of sidewalk there, and then also to come in compliance down here. The section like in front of the architect and Marigold and up to Kevin's is actually asphalt, and that's not really in compliance with the way that they like to have sidewalks. So it would be good to get that concrete. So any questions on that? Or?
We don't have to talk about the numbers right now, but you were awarded how much?
So
The initial grant was
145,800.
And so the difference between that and the bid, or not the bid, but the new estimate? I feel like we're getting into this Bank Street project stuff again.
It was about 150, the estimated planning from the engineers is in 220s. Again, it's the same federal stuff like the intersection, and it's 10 or 12 years from the day you sign the first piece of paper till it's completed, and just life
What I'm trying to get at is, so the grant,
So-
you're gonna be asking for how much more to assure?
70,000.
So I have
About
a
70.
well, I have the exact number.
Okay.
The resolution that I'm proposing that we sign is that we've been awarded $145,800. The estimate is $224,000, and the difference being $79,000. So I'm asking that the Board of Trustees endorse an application to the project, to the program for $79,000.
Can I ask a quick question about that?
And that, and our responsibility of, would be 20% of 79,000.
That's right.
And then.
Plus
and that's in-
10% of 145.
Correct.
So the 145, we have to match with 14.5,
Mm-hmm.
which puts us at 160,300. So I
Mhm.
get. So then the balance is I get 70,000, or 69,700 between, and we'd have to match 20% of that, so we basically need to come up with just shy of 14,000, so we're looking for 56 from them, I think, rounded.
So,
Is that
You
right?
already gotta feed in, you gotta add in what our commitment part of the grant that they gave us, right? It's not a subtractive thing, it's additive. So if they gave us 145,800 or whatever it was, then or 5, then we're, add to that the 10%.
Oh, I see.
So that you're asking for less than 79, you're asking about 69%.
I just wanted to make sure I understood it, that's
Right.
all.
Well, then you go
So the
back-
difference is between
Then you
the,
go back to the contingency, the numbers should go with that.
That, I think you're right, that's my number.
Life
may
is
be on.
beyond trouble.
okay.
But yeah, but you might not be. So if we're asking for that much, it doesn't really matter what we ask for as long as we're covered. Because it doesn't matter what whatever we get for a total project cost, that's gonna be what our match is. So if we get awarded 220 as a total amount awarded and it comes into 180, they're only gonna give us
Exactly.
whatever our less match is.
Exactly.
So we should
Can
be
we ask
asking
for
for a
more?
little bit more than what the total estimate is, because
By the
like you
time-
say, you wanna add in a contingency.
Your letter
Well-
could say, we have had some very bad experience with this kind of mission creep when it comes to the intersection where, the initial estimates were 80,000, the final estimates were 800,000. So, really.
I know.
So we want to be assured that this is the last time we need to go for a round of funding, and so that we might, I don't know that you can't ask for more than that estimate.
Yeah.
They're not gonna pay more if it doesn't get to that, but maybe we could ask for
Maybe
100
just do the
additional.
70,000
What's-
Or 100,000.
Norm, what's the standard practice for adding in a contingency? What percentage?
15%.
So why don't we take what if you take what the total project cost is, less our match, add in a 15%.
Right,
and
there might be.
that's what we should write the
In
grant.
the original number at 220, there might be that 15% contingency built into it.
It could.
And this was quite some time ago when we had that meeting.
Mhm.
So, we just have to relook at the number, but, if we have a $70,000 shortfall right now, I would certainly agree just,
That's
put it in for that same amount of money. If there's already contingency, we're even better, they're not gonna,
They're not gonna quibble over that.
right, 10
Don't-
grand ain't gonna make.
Don't calculate out that 14.5,
That's right.
just say that, like you did originally.
Right, and it's either, because the state knows it's either, with this, it's either a go or no.
Mhm.
So you can either fix your system, theirs, and give us the extra money because of the time frame, and we'll build this project, or don't, and we'll say thank you very much and move up. And that's.
We're not locked into this in the same way, not yet, because we don't have true engineering.
Yeah, I think that next one will be, because they've changed things. I think that next one will be locked into that piece.
No, because we haven't paid anything. There's not anything yet that we would lose, except the study money, maybe, if we chose
Right,
not
and
to do
The
that.
match is a separate.
And that was
Separate
wrapped
grant.
up, so, the studies, I
Yeah.
believe, is squared away, the planning, and the planning came, and the planning was at $200-something.
So do it the way you did it. Don't worry about subtracting out that 14.5.
so there's still the option that when we go to bid, it will be more than we've got.
It's likely
Yeah.
that it will be.
Yeah. Or, yeah, but just in terms of
Well, I don't
keep
know.
adding money to the budget.
I think I'm actually I think I need to support the grant request with the estimate that I get from BCRC. And so I don't think I can just add my own. I think I could put in a higher, they have a 15% contingency. I could put in 20 or 25% contingency because I have been burned on projects before where we have, but I don't think I can just say, well, we have estimates for 70, we have estimates for 70,000, but we're asking for 80.
Right, no, I get that.
You know, I think.
I get that, and that's why they get into trouble then, because they end up with these projects that are underfunded by the money that they give.
I think whatever our shortfall is, or 15% contingency on that number, that's.
Just to make sure
That's a standard procedure, no one would ever question that. I mean, just like you said, we think we may need a 50% contingency, but we're not gonna get.
Talk to David, because he's done these, so he'll know how to pass the money.
Okay, so here's the thing though, is that so I think we're a little bit blocked up here because the grant is due on July 15th, okay? And so in order to submit something, we have to have a resolution. And and the next, you know, if we don't do it this time, we'd have to wait.
No, we're not waiting. So
and then the grant that we've already gotten has to be spent within a certain period of time, so I don't know if we have the option to wait another year.
Okay.
So we I guess what we're saying is we trust your numbers?
Just send that over here and we'll sign it.
Yeah, can we, if we need to make a motion, can I, and because
Go
we're
ahead.
not really sure how that's gonna work, can we make a motion right now to allow you to submit something for this grant for whatever amount we need to get that 220? Well, once you work out the numbers between the match and everything
The
like
way
that.
that I've written this I think is not inconsistent with everything that we've said, because
Okay, perfect.
one of the clauses says that we've been awarded 145.8, which we have. That's accurate.
Okay.
I think what we're saying is the project cost was actually that plus 10%. But that I didn't write in here.
That's right.
that
The number sounds perfect, yeah.
Then the part that matters is it says that we will endorse an application for 79,000. What I'm gonna add in is up to 79,000.
Perfect.
Because that was a high number, and I think the only thing I would do is actually come down from that, but if I need it, I can go up to it.
That works for me.
Is that okay?
But you don't want to change that, you want us to actually sign that sheet tonight, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
But we can edit it, right? Right now, we can just put up
edit.
two.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
I will.
there's a motion on the floor, do I have a second?
Yep.
I will second.
What's that?
I'll make a motion that we approve the proposal to seek grant funding for this sidewalk project as drafted.
As drafted.
And I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So if you just want to initial and sign
Do you want me to initial there?
I think everybody should initial.
Okay, so you know all that. Okay.
And thank you for taking over that
Yes.
portion
Yeah,
of the
thank you.
void in our board here, because we know that,
Very much
we know how much work that David has done over the years, and for you to step up, just getting in is very much appreciated.
I'm
Oh,
hoping
wait a
that,
minute, I
you know, in retrospect, it would have obviously been better to have this meeting the month before
Yep.
as opposed
Yep.
to the week of when it's submitted, but it's a learning curve for me
Thanks,
trying
Rick.
to get this stuff done, and
Can you mail that tomorrow?
David's been very gracious in helping me do this, and I'm collecting 2 more
Support letters?
support letters. I already have a letter from the village school as well as from from BCRC, and I'm getting one from the planning commission, so.
Well,
Do you want this back, or does this go to Lori?
today's what day? The
12th.
I'll take that just because I need to make
Today's
a
12th.
copy.
Today's
Yeah,
the
it's
12th.
Or actually, no, I need the copy and I'll give you the original,
Okay.
okay?
Okay, we're set there? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we can go to Norm, back to Norm?
Do we need a motion to close the public hearing? Or
We should
Oh, yeah.
close the public hearing.
I'll make a
Oh.
motion to close the public hearing.
I will second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Confusing me.
You wanna wait for me till the
Sorry.
end?
Huh?
You wanna wait for me till the end?
Well,
Yeah.
it is, yeah. I mean, we've got to talk about the lease stuff, but we'll do that since they're not, we'll do that in executive.
Well, there's a, I have an.
She has a new
item here.
business about personnel manual.
I have one little minor, very
And
minor new
it's
I would-
business.
vaguely-
I would just assume Norm go so that we can,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, I sent out an email, was asked to try to get the safe open, and I sent out an email, there's a key for that thing, and nobody replied. Not one person, not one.
I did.
Oh, you did.
Yes, because you brought me bills and I replied.
I can't reply, I mean, no means no.
There's a key. Somebody's gotta look for it. It's gonna be, more rectangular in shape. It'll have, 5 or 6 pins on it.
Like a
It'll look like a little hand. Yeah, when we're done, I'll show you on the lock. It actually goes in and then you take the whole thing and it spins the whole.
I have a keychain that I inherited that has probably 40 or 50 keys on it,
It'll
but,
be great, but this one will be, this will be one of a kind. This will be.
yeah, I know, I don't recall such a key, but I'll look.
So, if there's any spots, Laura said that she had a couple little hiding spots that she was gonna take a peek in. You know,
Okay.
so we need to.
The only other thing is to drill it out, like Adams could do
There's no
something.
drilling that.
There is. It's locked forever.
It's gonna be either you keep going to junk shops and find a key and hopefully it works. You know, he's online with his, you know, in his,
Database.
yeah, his colleagues and there's no easy opening to that safe, so I don't know whatever's in it.
Now,
You know, I mean, now you probably blow the back of it out or ruin it, but you can't knock the barrel hinges off, the way the lock goes, it's, you know, knock the hinges off all you want, the door's not coming up.
so it can't be opened without destroying it.
That's
But
correct.
we certainly could find somebody that could get in there,
Well,
destroy
I
it.
don't think there's anything in there with all that, but,
Not worth it.
no.
Doesn't destroy it.
Yeah, no, that's.
Okay,
Not knowing what's in it.
Nice to have a key, I don't know if there's any archives in the library, I don't.
well, it could be in any number of 100 boxes up there at
If
the
I would
bottom,
guess, it was probably in something, maybe Fred Welling's treasure pile.
which we know where some of that is.
You know, because he was in this office.
Lori insists she's seen that safe open in the last 10 years,
I have
but
seen it open.
Which means it's
I have.
You've seen it since I've
You
been
got
there.
it.
The other one used to sit there, and we moved it, and that one is open.
I know.
With 10 years, that would still be.
It's gotta be locked with the key.
So I haven't been around 10
So it'd be
years.
like-
so-
I got all Ron's keys,
And have we asked Ron about it, or?
We've got
not directly. Might be worth it.
Yeah,
8:15.
Come on, let's move.
yeah, no, so we can, I mean, short of asking Ron, I mean, I've never had a key to it, and nor would I ever know where a key was put, but I can certainly ask Ron, because if we're talking about a 10-year period, that would be
Yeah.
Ron on the board, so I can certainly ask him.
Yeah,
If
you
nobody
know,
has
but I
it.
think he gave the keys.
He gave
now.
everything, and there was no weird key.
Or if
but
he
I-
ever
I
remembers
know where they are.
seeing it,
Sure.
might be able to dog his
yeah.
one. I'll touch base.
Yeah.
Okay, so, we've got a roof problem with this building. And we're, again, everybody sick of grants, but we're applying for a grant for the main roof, but this overhang roof needs to be sealed, we got some big problems. Met with a couple of guys, the only one that really decided to respond is Hardy Builders. And they gave us, like, I'm not gonna say the price on hand, but they gave us a
Quote.
quote for fixing the roof on this building. Before we had a local contractor that like took care of this thing like it was his own. And unfortunately, he's not doing that anymore, so we really need to talk about this. You know, bring that up in contracts. We've got an estimate on chip sealing, which is basically putting a wear course on Mechanic Street, Madison Road, Harlan, or,
College,
not College, the other one. No, we're gonna stay away from College this year, for this year.
good.
Harlan, the little street.
Harlan.
And then Frederick Street, so basically a couple mile block. And it's like $22,000. We'll probably get off stone a little bit. We'll get some stone away from that. But that's something that we really should think about. Again, we're gonna preserve our roads. We were gonna try to pave a couple this year, but the roads that we got paved, there's some water issues, and the water department with Ted has asked that they're kind of putting on the brakes on almost everything until they kind of figure out a few things. And those are roads that we need to do. Mary had talked about, you know, doing some different things, so she'd be aware of where we're going. We do have our crack sealing unit coming, and they're going to do they're gonna do right up here from the intersection, all the way down to the old Kempad building, and Bank Street down. So this whole couple miles of road will all be crack sealed. There's some problem areas that keep popping up, but hopefully that'll make any less to come. And then other than that, we're just gonna start filling potholes as best we can. Yes, yeah, from Upper Main, what's the name of this guy's house that passed away?
Aldrich.
Aldrich is right from Aldrich's property, all the way down to Kempad, and then,
Now,
from Bank Street, from the intersection by the store on Bank Street, we've done past that.
do we know that there's not gonna be any water line work? I don't think there is, actually.
Well, it doesn't matter, this is crack sealing, they gotta seal the whole road, and then they dig, whatever, that's just like,
Okay.
you know what I mean, we can't, no, we don't, you can't. Yeah, that's just, you can't deal with it. So we have that, now, with the bid on our chip sealing, I would recommend that I go have a nice conversation with them, say, I think we're pretty good, but we just wanna get into this big project first and make sure that everything's gonna lay out the way it's supposed to be. And then go for that. And they wanna do it in conjunction with when Shasbury does theirs, so they'll be in the area, it cuts on all our mobilization costs and stuff like that. So there we go. Another piece of grant paperwork, Mary and myself, we filled out a bunch of them for Vermont local roads. We got turned down all but one. I know. And the one that we got is with the BRC, so it's basically not gonna do much infrastructure work for us. So we really need to get a field trip. Again, I invite all of you, as I have many times before, and we'll go out and we'll look at a couple of these projects. We have bottom of Park Street, and we also have West Street. Now, if anybody drove on West Street 2 days ago, and the nice lady said, I was up there picking up gravel, it's just washing out. Now, we had talked we put in a grant for curbing and, you know, getting the gold star. Maybe we dig that out and we just pave that area so it looks like the other side and be done with it.
You're talking up at the top of the hill.
Well, I'm talking about the whole side of West Street on the library side. But when we get to the top of the hill, local contractor owes us a couple days with an excavator. Maybe we blow out that little staircase thing. We dig that bank down as flat as we can, and then we pave basically the Cape Cod, what they call it, and we put a paved sidewalk on the school side of that street going up.
Yeah, it looks.
Solve some of those erosion problems that we had.
Yeah.
Or we knock that staircase out and we abandon the sidewalk on that side of the street, which is, we've talked about several times.
Yeah,
And,
I think that the issue is gonna be when you take that set of stairs out, is matching up the sidewalk that's coming down the hill to the sidewalk that's going
Oh, that's,
on the
that can be
street,
done.
so it's, I'm sure it can be, I just think.
yeah, no, that will be.
Because then you've still got it, so unless you're gonna have to tear up some of the sidewalk heading up the
Yeah.
street, because you can't have a,
We'll have to go a
you know,
little
you can't have
bit.
a 2-foot drop where the stairs are.
We'll have to go a little bit.
You have to go
It's,
up.
You know, the nature of that street, unfortunately, we'll never get that piece ADA compliant. It's just,
Right.
it's not gonna happen.
Mhm.
You know, the street just goes.
That's why I think if you can't make an ADA compliant sidewalk, then you shouldn't put one there.
Well, that's what he's talking about is
I know.
take out the staircase, which is not ADA compliant.
Obviously.
And just finish the piece on School Street, just.
The
Exactly.
only,
Take it
the
out.
only, the only argument to that would be that it's not feasible for us to afford an ADA compliant, but it certainly is a necessary place to have a sidewalk, given that it's
No, we
right
need-
around the school, which is.
We
which is
need
the
one,
tricky
we
thing.
would need one that leads to the school. I don't think we have to have crisscross. That one block up to Department McCullough House, it's a generally quiet street. people can walk, I mean, they walk down Prospect on the street when there's two sidewalks, or there's a sidewalk to walk on.
Right, if we could curb that, or, you know, if we curb it,
Contain
or we put a blacktop thing on it, you know, now's the time to fix it. It just washes away, it's horrible.
Yep.
Filling those DIs.
Constantly dealing with it.
Okay,
So we really need a field trip out there to deal with that. And then decide if we're gonna go on some of those other dreams that we had. And again, we can get there once we get past our Water Street project. I'm very encouraged in how those numbers fell. And one of the reasons that we did the bid the way that we did it is so we didn't end up with like the intersection with, you know, all these quantities just were miscalculated and going
yeah,
It's a lump sum job. Here it is. Here's the project.
Yeah.
This is what we want to see. Have a nice day. Thank you. Now, if we find a spaceship in the middle of that thing, we're not going to expect our contractor to have to deal with it. But if you read your blueprints that everybody's been emailed, they're not tearing that wall out. It's staying. Everything they're building is in front of it,
Right.
besides some junk trees. So there's not a lot of questions. It's not, we're not looking for a 200-year-old cistern that we don't know where.
Where you get surprises.
We didn't know where it was, but, yeah. So
okay.
with that, that's,
I just don't want to, sidewalk wise, I'm hesitant. A quick fix to that is necessary, the one on West Street. And more grants can be written or whatever in the future, but we've got a commitment to this other sidewalk program, which is gonna mean 20,000+ of our own money, at least. And we've got the Water Street thing, you got the chip sealing, you got the, you know, let's fix that with an economic solution.
well, I think the best way is to
Taper it down and skirt it with asphalt.
yeah, well, we wouldn't even taper it down, we'd leave it just the way it says, you know what I mean? And we could leave that staircase in place where it is, and we could just put a blacktop curb up the street and then go down in those little grass islands that was left at one point in time.
Dirt islands, you know, because people
Yeah,
keep driving
they're
over them.
horrible, and just dig those out and paint those all in.
And I looked at those and I like your idea. I did like the idea. I wouldn't look at it after.
When you
last time we talked
when
about
you
it.
stripe it, it'll help delineate the road.
Yeah, I would still curb it, because.
Of course we would, but
The same problem.
and we still can
with that
sometime.
house, but-
But right now, if you do a white stripe that kind of makes that road look narrower,
Yes.
and a center stripe, and then have that little extra bit of asphalt, that'll be fine. It won't look so.
It'll make a big difference, yeah, for sure.
And it'll be a big maintenance difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, then we have, the 3 leases to talk about. I got copies of actually all the leases and paperwork, because I don't know if you guys.
Well, yeah, I'll explain that, but I think, I mean, yeah, we'll do that in executive, because they're contractual and they're not fully resolved yet, so. So that's it for you?
Yeah, I think so. That's enough.
Janice?
Can I mention one thing?
Yes.
I'm sorry, while we're on highway, I thought the decorations you did on the building was really good.
Oh, yeah.
Classy,
Really, really.
not
good.
overstated.
Yep.
The question with those is, how long do we collectively feel that we want to leave them up?
I think they should come
Battle
down.
Day,
When's Battle Day?
August 16th.
16. Battle Day is always on before August.
I mean, I think Bennington, well, they probably leave there for what?
I will defer to the board. I would take them down now, but I'm okay with whatever you decide.
Yeah, whatever you want to do.
All right, the weekend after Battle Day, we'll take them down.
Yeah, it seems silly to take them down and put them back up. That seems like unnecessary work, because I think they would be nice to have up for Battle Day.
I think they make the building look
They do.
nice. And I
Makes
think
it
we
pop.
can
Yeah, no, I think
expand
it
on that in other seasons and do some things. I mean, this is a beautiful building, and I've seen multiple people stop and take pictures of it.
You bet.
Oh, yeah.
They like it.
Norm, this question about the roof thing, we'll get to that because you're gonna get some numbers on that, but
The lower roof or the bigger roof?
the lower
Yeah.
is, I still am not certain that our problem is a a failure
Coating?
of the coating, but rather water getting in behind
Upward.
where the veranda
Well,
comes
the coating's
off.
got faulty, so you can
Okay.
get- You can get up on it and see it. I'm not saying that it's not coming behind and then coming in.
Because that water that we're getting seems to be coming, the damage underneath is coming real close to the brick building, not
Yeah.
like it's.
And it's got, there's.
Now, okay,
Remember,
we'll talk,
there's multiple pieces on it,
yeah, we'll talk about that.
so.
Janice?
Two quick things. One is, some time ago, I had talked with Laurie about fixing up the personnel manual. It had a number of errors in it, and so it was more cosmetic than policy. And so her daughter Allison took that on, and that was quite a job. And then when I got it back, I just couldn't leave it alone, so I did a little more, and I sent it out to folks. So I haven't heard anything back. I know it was last minute,
I
but
didn't get to it.
Yeah, I did.
yeah, well, I know it's a big.
Send it a reminder again
Well,
for next meeting to be sure that we've all reviewed it.
What we'd like to do is get a cleaned up copy out to employees so that it's, you know, in decent shape. Then, as people read through it though, if there's questions or concerns about items that might need changing with the intent, and they, then to flag those and decide if we want to do anything further in any of the policies.
Well, it doesn't take a huge amount of, voting or whatever for us to just vote to make those changes, right? It's not,
Well, somebody, if it's a change, you need to have it written out. Somebody has to,
Right, of
will have to
course.
do that, yeah. But yeah.
On the draft that you sent around, are the changes marked?
No. What changes that have been made, the corrections?
Yeah.
They were mostly grammatical corrections,
They were
correct?
grammatical, they were gender inclusive language, there were,
Well, the only issue is that
typos.
if you, sometimes in making grammatical changes,
the change.
the only,
Yeah.
if you're just, if you say, well, if you know that it was just grammatical, then we could just approve it right now. But the issue with approving it is because sometimes when you make a grammatical change, unintentionally, the intent of the
Okay,
thing is changed. So that's why it
Okay.
requires approval. So if I don't know what the changes are, then it's kind of
well,
hard.
I have a.
Well, I can give you an old one.
Right.
Can you send me the old one and the new one in Word? And I can
Sure,
copy
you
it
have the new one.
The new one just got sent to you,
Yeah.
it's
Right,
emailed
so
to
you
you.
can send me the
I
old
have
one
a marked up copy too.
Right, and I can.
Let's just-
So it's
But I
just
would be absolutely fine with sending it to the employees and just say that it's pending final approval.
That's possible too. But I think, yeah, let's all look at it, make sure that really is just,
You know, the contents pages were never in order,
Yep.
and now they are. It was a ton of work, but it was really that kind of typographical errors and
grammatical
grammar
errors.
and, you know, paragraphing.
when did we make that original?
Oh,
Was
wow.
it Bob that put that
It's
stuff
Bob,
together?
yeah.
It was a long, and it was great, but there were,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, it was a major undertaking, I think, and to do initially. but-
Yeah, she did a good job with it.
Good. Thank you,
It was a long
Allison.
time,
Yes.
but-
Yes, thank you. And so what, did we want to wait until people had a chance to look at it and approve
Yeah.
it next, or?
That's what I'd
make a
like to do.
decision? Okay. The other thing is, I went to the meeting up at Bennington College, back at the end of June around PFOA, and sat through it, and there were a lot of people who were affected, who had questions, and they did that. But at the end, they talked about the water systems changes, and Steve and the engineer, Steve Goodrich and the engineer from Otter Valley was there.
Otter Creek.
Otter Creek, sorry. And I think the maps are posted.
Yeah, they are. I had actually a pretty long discussion with Steve
Oh, okay.
last week about that because they're going to have,
That was my next
Okay,
thing.
but can I-
There- Yeah, did you?
So they're at the school, at the village school on the 27th, they're gonna have a description of the big plan. And he's gonna get a copy of the whole plan to Norm and the five of us. Just so when people have questions or whatever, we know and you might look at what roads might be affected or whatever. They're not gonna turn this into another forum for people talking about their medical concerns and all that stuff, because there's plenty of, there's venues for that. This is really gonna stay focused on, here's the plan that's finally been put forth. Here's the dollar cost estimates for North Bennington. They're not gonna speak to the Bennington stuff, because that's Jason actually has been doing that work, and some other engineers.
They'll have their own meetings.
And they'll have their own meetings. They're looking at a project right now that is rather astronomical. Ours is, I think, pretty contained. Unfortunately, as it stands, St. Gobain wants to deal in whatever way they're going to deal with it. They want to deal with it as one package. And we've appealed to them that we need some other solution, because frankly, what Bennington's facing, and they can do it in phases or whatever, but what they're facing could be 3 or 4 years down the road.
Oh, really? Wow. Because of the scale of it or the cost?
Well, the
of it?
scale has increased greatly because of, and then also the confusion and the discussion of whether or not what's been found around the dump is of St. Gobain's concern, or, you know.
It's still testing too.
Oh, yeah, they're still.
I mean, yeah.
So we would like to somehow decouple these two projects, but they're not even connected, right? They're not physically connected systems, and they're run by different boards and by different communities. So that's kind of something that they're exploring, but ultimately, this is going to end up short of St. Gobain. Well, they'll speak to all this actually, because they know the ins and outs of it, and so anybody who's interested in the financing and how we're going to go about doing this, regardless of, you know, who ends up finally paying what for what, it's going to involve probably a bond. And so, and there's reasons why that's actually a really good thing. There might be some arguments why it isn't. The bond that they did for the water treatment plant many years ago was almost paid down, and the interest rate on that bond was like 7-8%. Bonds right now are about 1 or 2. And so there's this whole issue about whether or not some other things ought to be dealt with that aren't St. Gobain's problem in order to enhance the water system, if you're gonna do a vote for a bond for the money. So Steve and their attorney and employees and the engineer will all be at this meeting to.
St. Gobain's attorney?
No, the water board.
Department's attorney.
He'll moderate the meeting just to keep it on focus. And
so is someone advocating for separation of these projects, or is that something that we would consider doing ourselves?
It's been discussed at the state level. The state's apparently was trying to do that, and
Because I mean, we could contact, you know, I certainly think that we all know people within the system, if it's in North Bennington's interest to advocate for that, but if it's already a point that the state is trying to make with St. Gobain, then
I believe that point has already been
okay.
breached, and it doesn't mean it shouldn't be again. And maybe with further understanding that, you know, that we're separate communities with separate concerns and separate bonds and separate everything, you know, it's.
Which could also be, I mean, waiting to see what the result of their plea could determine what we do. If they're able to get it done, then we certainly don't have to do anything.
If who can get it done.
But so if the state is able to negotiate that for us and they say, okay, yes, we'll treat it separately, then, but if they've exhausted all of their efforts
I don't know,
and
and
they
this
decide
is
not to, then we could certainly, at that point, take up our own cause, I would assume.
My sense was that the state was waiting to get more feedback from local communities as to what
the final costs would be. Or what-
Well, then they got those numbers.
They have
but
that, okay.
recently, which would, went way up again, as this will happen, but, again, I'll let the,
What's requiring bonding?
okay, so in bonding, you write up a bond proposal and it's voted on by the community.
Right, but what would require a bond for this project?
Well, there's a couple, I don't know how much I wanna,
Okay.
there's just a couple different ways in my mind, is one is, the responsible party would write a check and say, here. I doubt that's gonna happen quite that way. Nor do we feel, there are things that the water board's considering that aren't their problem. Well, that's the other part. So the federal government, every time a municipal water system finishes off a bond, they basically come back to you and say, all right, get another bond. Because there's always improvements to bring you up into compliances. And so, in a way, it's an opportunity to do that, make some fixes, and then whatever components, and that's gonna be negotiated by their lawyers and St. Cobain, I don't know. Whether or not, the other possibility is that you would bond, how older money gets cheaper, so you bond, maybe the agreement is that both Bennington and North Bennington will each separately bond, and St. Cobain would pay the premium on a 15-year bond. That would save them a lot of money. Instead of throwing 30 million down now, doing it over 15 years.
I can
that's the
see how
difference.
that a bond could play into a discussion or a system that, we don't really have any idea how that's gonna work out, but
No.
I see how that could factor into the discussion at some point, but there's no, as far as what a citizen might be concerned about is, there's no discussion at this point that North Bennington needs to be significantly bonded for a project associated with bringing water to these houses. At this point, all the negotiations are centered around getting St. Cobain to pay for it.
Of course,
Okay.
of course. But I also say that as a community, I believe strongly in getting our really good quality water to all the people affected, and as soon as possible. That's the part that bothers me with the potential delays that could have been.
So is the meeting when at?
And I don't know the time, but
Okay.
it will be,
Okay.
it'll be in the paper, it'll be posted. It's probably 7 o'clock, could be 6.
And that's the 27th,
Mm-hmm.
Thursday, I think.
Yes, it's a Thursday. Anybody else? Oh, I've got a new business.
I had something really quick.
Go ahead.
I don't know if it's under. Just, I know it was brought up, and I can't remember if it was last meeting or a couple meetings ago, just questions about the footbridge down by, down in the corner by the church.
Mm-hmm.
It had been closed for a while. It is
It's been
redone.
rebuilt.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
been redone. I just wanted to mention that, I assume the state did that in there, all their efforts of all the work they're doing and all the bridge work, but I actually ran across the other day.
It's really.
Just-
It's unbelievable that for
Mentioned it was there.
years
Looks
they
great.
extended that other side through a project that took forever to get them to do, and then they said, we're not gonna do anything with the sidewalk, but now at least you got, it kind of goes to nowhere. I don't think there's even a sidewalk on the
It's
other
weird,
side
there's
of
a lot
it.
of
There's
people
not-
that walk that though.
Well, you have
There
to,
are a lot.
and that's
To
a
get to
dangerous,
the
that's a
walk.
dangerous place to be walking in the road.
It is.
It's a blind
Really
spot.
dangerous place, yeah.
That was our argument 10 years ago when they wouldn't do anything for it.
Mhm.
A citizen on Mechanic Street is greatly concerned about speed of cars and wanted me to, I decided I would wait and ask you to contact the chief,
Sure.
police chief, to,
And we actually had an earlier, before you were here,
Did you?
somebody mentioned not on
West.
Mechanic, but on West Street.
Yep.
So the same thing, speed and,
how about we ask if they wouldn't put some, some assets out there.
and I've seen, I know they've got that little portable that just tells your speed. Sometimes that's,
Yeah, and it's, it's temporary. It doesn't
Yeah.
solve the problem, but shorter speed.
but certainly
bumps.
that accompanying some extra drive-bys would be,
And-
no, I can.
And some punitive
Yep.
ticketing might be worth
So you
it.
would like me to contact them about that?
Yeah,
And it was Doris Pratt, and she had identified times a day.
yeah,
when-
Doris and I had a long
Yeah,
conversation
yeah.
last week and 2 weeks ago, and I had urged her to come to this board, mostly about the other concerns she had.
Well, I can speak to the fact that obviously, there's more traffic in the summer for the boat launch on Lake Perrin, and when you're coming back up from there and stop at the end of North Street
Front of your
to turn-
house.
to turn onto Mechanic either direction, if somebody's coming down the hill fast, it's almost a blind look from there, because you have to, if you stop on the line and you wait for a second, you can see enough, as long as somebody's going the speed limit down the hill. But usually people don't stop on the line, they creep over, and at that point, it's almost too late. And there's been several very close calls there.
Is that a vegetation issue on that corner property?
I don't think it is, because they've cut it back, and
They've actually done quite a bit, they've done quite a bit.
North Street, Mechanic Street, this corner house, that one that had the water pumping out of their basement issue, remember?
North Street, Mechanic Street?
By the fishing access, come out of the fishing access, stop at Mechanic.
Paquins, yeah.
No, you're saying Paquins. This is the problem over here, not the one over here.
Yeah, when you're,
As you look up the hill.
Looking up the hill.
yeah,
Yeah, it's that big bush there and.
They've planted some pretty big bushes that those people did in the last 5 years, and I started thinking that.
Those you can't see up Mechanic,
up Mechanic.
That's-
but
I don't think that's as,
that's my issue.
Well, what else would it be? If you can't, what's blocking the line of sight?
Because I
is
come
the
from
line
my
in the wrong-
mother's and I go up Mechanic to go home.
Yeah.
And she lives on Sage, and I never, that's really,
yeah.
it's really tough.
I guess it's not.
Let's take-
Most of the time we're in a truck.
I think it
And
is.
you're higher.
The truck makes a difference. You're in a lower car.
It is vegetation, I think, but it's way back. I think it's just a corner that requires care to,
Mhm.
Yeah, I think you're right.
and it's not, I think if people coming down were going the speed limit, you'd be okay, because if you creep out, then they'd see you and they'd slow down or
Right.
stop.
But they're not gonna.
But
so-
if you're going 30 or 35 down there,
Well, the speed limit's 30,
yeah.
which is fast enough for that road.
One area that is better, I think, is the house on the corner of Mechanic and Prospect that was sold.
Oh, God, yes.
Yes.
The college came in there this
But
week
a lot
and
of
just,
those bushes and things have been removed, and so you can actually see up Prospect when you're trying to turn
it looks a lot
to go
better.
down Prospect, you know, off from Mechanic, you just couldn't see before.
Yeah.
So
Who bought that?
The college.
Did they?
If there's nothing else, somebody make a motion to go into executive for contract.
I could make a quick comment too,
Yeah.
just that I do understand, and maybe again as a concern for North Bennington, it's my understanding there is a project in discussions at this point for the possibility of a roundabout at the corner of Silk and Madison and the college entrance, which is not North Bennington, but obviously all of us are affected by that.
That's been on the books for 20 years.
I understand, but apparently there's.
Well, the state's really.
The state has turned into
it's really
liking
moving
roundabouts
into-
now.
And I bet you,
Building up.
depending on the success of the one by the
Which is gonna be great.
Walmart, if that finds success, that might put some more urgency into getting one there.
It's actually, I would say, better with just a stop sign than it was before. I actually
Yeah.
get through there faster than I
Now
have.
it's
by
like-
It can't get worse than the light.
The college now owns
The whole deal.
all except, I think, the one, do they own
I think
even
it's
the,
everything, yeah.
that wooded part with the poison ivy all over it?
I think so.
And then they own the brick house and they own the, and then they own their own. So that'd make it easy.
But, you know, if it required a letter of support from
Oh,
the
sure.
village, maybe
We
we could
would be
consider
supportive
being
of
in
that.
favor of that.
Absolutely.
That's tough nursing.
Motion?
I will make that motion to move into executive session to discuss contracts.
Second.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.